Hey all, today we're going to be making this. It's called Stairs. I found it while browsing the Play Store. Just to be clear, I didn't create Stairs, nor did I publish it, and I've not been paid to make this video. I believe the actual developer's name is Yuri Sanachev, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, and the publisher is Ketchup. Okay, let's get started. I've created a new project called Stairs Remade, and I'm using Unity version 2020.3. And yeah, I've just got a blank scene open here. As you see, I've got a Unity package. It's called Stairs Remade. Just a few assets. So if you can download that in the description. Now I'm just going to import it. Import package, custom package, and then navigate to where you've got your package, and then open. And then we're going to import all of this. Hit all. And yeah, there's a bit of a confliction there with the scenes, but it should be fine. Import. There we go, it's all imported. Let's go through the package. Prefabs, scenes, scripts, sprites. Let's go into scenes and open up the stair scene. Import TMP essentials. Because we're using TextMesh Pro within our project. Okay, let's go for our stair scene. So it's directional light, basic, standard camera just behind our ball. That's our ball, the avatar. Just got a rigid body attached. Resolve avatar, collision script. Its position is frozen. The Z, its rotation is frozen X, Y, and Z. No script to move it. Okay. This is our position reset trigger. This is what's going to create our endless loop of the ball bouncing up the stairs. And these are all just our steps. Each step builds up the stairs, obviously. And some of them have this moved side to side script attached to them, which will slide the step from side to side. Okay, so now we're onto the canvas. We're going to be using a slider to move our ball from side to side. It's all UI slider. So we run this. Our ball's just falling there. Yes, you can see on the right hand side our value is shifting from -1 to 1, and our center value is 0. Okay, that's just our score. That's our score text. So yes, we just enter a new value in. And yeah, we're going to use a score manager to keep track of our score. Instructions, that's just that animated text there, telling us how to start the game. And diamond, that's our diamond image, top right hand corner. It's going to be a collectible that we pick up as we go. And diamond, that's like a diamond score text. See how many diamonds we've collected throughout the game. And yeah, it's going to be using a diamond manager. Yeah, here is a score counter. So that's going to tell us how much we're incrementing by in our score each time we hit the step. Because the value will differ depending on what you hit last. Let's reset that. Oh yeah, another thing here is the white fog. Just go over the scripts. These are all empty. Pretty much. There's a few extra using assembly information. Let's open up this one. Avatar move. We'll sort out our avatar movement first. So float, avatar Y speed, avatar Z speed. Avatar Y speed equals 1 times time dot fixed delta time. We're going to be using the fixed delta time loop to move the fixed update loop to move our avatar. So in 1 second it will move 1 in the Y speed and 2 in the Z axis. Okay, let's go to the resolve avatar collision script. So in this one we're going to resolve the collisions for our ball. So when it hits a step it needs to bounce up to the next one. So that's what this script is going to do. So we're justifying the gravity value, and then we're going to increase our internal gravity by twice, because our gravity fall speed at the moment is a bit slower, I found. So I'm doubling our gravity force pushing down. Yep, so now we're creating an on-collision event. So when our ball collides with a step, it should be at position 2.4 roughly. That's roughly the middle of the step. So when that happens, we want to provide an upwards velocity. Normally you would provide an upwards force. It's a bit bad practice to do it this way, but it works rather well, I found, in this instance. So I want it to be inverse to the gravity's force, basically. And yeah, I added it times minus 0.95 because sometimes the ball would drift position. So it's just, yeah, as you can see here, it's bouncing up quite smoothly. But our camera isn't tracking it. So let's sort that out. Go back into Visual Studios. Go to Avatar Move. Yeah, I'm going to have the camera in now. And we're performing the same transformations to the camera that we are to the avatar. Just Y plus avatar Y speed. Transform. So main dot transform dot position dot Z plus avatar Z speed. Save that. Let's go back into Unity. There we are. Bouncing up the stairs. Dunk, dunk, dunk. Whew. Oh. As you see there, the stairs isn't infinite, it's finite. So we're going to work on our position reset trigger to create our infinite stairs loop. So get rid of start. A new function called private void and trigger enter. And we want to get the first step and the last step. So when we collide into that box trigger, it's going to trigger this function. So we want to set our first game object to be at the last position. Last step Y in Z position. And just set it to set X to 0. Yeah, we're incrementing the position like this just to make sure there isn't a gap. I found if you set it to an absolute value, sometimes during the fixed loop it would deviate from that position slightly. Yeah, we're just going to get all the relevant transforms we need. Oh yeah, as you can see here, I started writing the function inside of the other function by mistake. I'll realise that in a second. I'll cut this and put it outside of the onTrue enter. It shouldn't be there. I also added a semicolon in there. It shouldn't be there. Yeah, we're going to get the Z value for our first step in that array, and then we're going to loop through the array and see if there's one that is further back, and that's the one we know will be our first one, the one that's sorry, the way around. So the one with the lowest Z value will be our first one. Yeah, and I just formatting screen, so select all and then Control K, Control D. Yeah, I'm just going to copy and paste this function again to create the last step. I'm just going to change that sign to a greater than and change these names from first step to last step. Okay, now we get our all relevant transforms function. So we're returning a transform array. And we need all of these steps, as well as the avatar and the camera transform as well. So I'm finding these objects by looking up the tags. Yeah, so we're going to insert all of our transforms into a list of transforms, then converting that back into an array. So first just add all of the steps transforms from the steps game object array, and then just individually add the player and the camera transform, and return that. Okay, it's done. Yeah, so that just sets all of our transforms back a bit. Okay, let's play that. Okay, that seems to be working. Endlessly looping. If we look at it alongside with the scene, see every time our ball jumps into the box, it jumps back. And if you look in the game view, it looks like the stairs is endlessly continuing up. If we check the steps as well, you can see they're moving along. Okay, let's stop that. Let's work on our side controller now. We'll work on our left to right. private transform, avatar transform, and we'll need our slider as well. So okay, public void slider change method. So yeah, we're going to get the value of our movement slider, and we're going to times it by the multiplier, which is the furthest position on left and right that the ball could be. Multiplier will be something like 2.655. We're about to define it. Yeah, 2.655. And then we just need to get our avatar transform and our movement slider. So this we're just going to get the component because this script's going to be attached to our slider, and for the avatar transform I'm just going to use the find game object with tag player transform. And now we need to attach our slider change to as a listener to the on value changed event. Okay, let's save that and go back into Unity. Hit play. Should we do our sliding now? Yeah, so first our slide can go is still within our steps boundary. Let's stop that. So go our prefab a second. So we look at our step. We've got individual slots. In our individual slots we have little obstacles. You can just see here where our slots are. So there are obstacles, we can collide with them. Some of them can be collectibles, some of them can be score modifiers. We're just going to define our slot class, which will define which obstacle is in each slot. So just create an enum called obstacle, define these values: empty, spike, diamond, and disc. And each slot will have an obstacle inside, as I say. And we just need to include our prefabs too. So the slot class is going to define what obstacle goes in each slot. So we're creating a getter setter. So we only want one child within our slot because in the transform order, our child is going to be the obstacle. So if there's already one in there, we're going to destroy it because we're going to be setting a new obstacle inside. Okay, we're going to be switching on the value, and we're going to be instantiating a different prefab and giving it a position and a size. So yeah, set its parent to the transform, which is going to be the slot. As I say, set its local position to a new vector 3, 0 for the spike. Give it a local scale. I think this will be 15. Oh, 40. There we are. So use vector 1 times a number, and that will give you an equal number in each x, y, and z value. So I'm just copying and pasting that, and then I'm going to adjust the names accordingly. No details. Change spike free prefab to diamond prefab. Set the local position to Yeah, not 0, 0.25 and 0. And yeah, the scale on this one is 15. Scale on all of them will be equal. Pretty much. Disk. Yeah, see, I see them again. Copy and paste it, and then adjust the names. And adjust the local position scale. So that'll be, yeah. Okay, save that. Let's go back into Unity a moment. Now we need to include all of the spike, diamond, and disk prefabs. I need to do it on all the slots. At the moment, I'm just doing it on the slot 1, but in a moment I'll be doing it on the rest of them. We're going to go into the generate random obstacle script. I'm going to create a function called generate, public function. It's going to be called from outside of the generate class, generate random obstacles class. So we're just finding a function there called, a method there called reset slots. Okay, yeah, so this is where we're going to be defining the numbers of all our spikes and disks and diamonds that are going to be on each step. So each time we perform our iterative loop in the position reset trigger, we're going to be generating a new set of obstacles. And we're generating a number of spikes between 0 and 5 exclusionaries, so it's going to be a maximum of 4 spikes on a step. I'm going to say whilst our number of spikes is not equal to 0, we're going to insert it into a random point on the step, random index. So we're going to pick a random slot and then put a spike in there. I'm saying if there's already a spike, we don't want to insert a new one. And if there isn't, then put a spike in to that slot. And we're doing essentially the same thing for disks and diamonds. Except we only want there to be 1 disk or 1 diamond per row, and not even necessarily 1 diamond, because I noticed in the actual gameplay for stairs, they're fairly rare. I think the purpose of that collectibles in the game is for spending. It has no real function in this, it's just something to collect. And this we want to say if it is, we only want it to add in a disk if the space is blank, if there's an empty space, because I was finding with the slot getter setter, if there's already a spike in there, it wouldn't delete the spike before adding in the disk or the diamond, so there would end up being 2 within that 1 slot space. So here I'm just adding a chance of a diamond, so if there's a 1 in 10 chance of there being a diamond on that row for each row. Yeah, so I'm adding in a loop break because there's a potential you could just keep sticking within this while loop, because it could see potentially at this point all of the obstacle slots could be full, and it could just keep going through the while loop because the number of diamonds would still be 0. So adding in a count of 6 will exit from the loop. And we're just doing now, we're going to be doing our reset slots function to empty out all of the slots of all the children. Of all the obstacles, I should say. Yeah, so just changing those to equal to instead of not equal to, because we want to say if they're equal to empty, then perform that function. Let's save that. We're going to go back to Unity. Let's give this a go. Oh yeah, sorry, I need to go into position reset trigger, and then we're just going to add in the generate function. So every time we collide, we're going to generate a new obstacle for that tile, that step. And because the step is outside of the visual range, we don't see the regeneration of that obstacle, of those obstacles. And yeah, here we are. I'm just adding in the extra prefabs into these slots. Okay, let's run that. See some obstacles. Here we are, coming out of the mist. Our diamonds, our spikes. So our spikes will reset the game. Our diamonds are kind of collectible. Our discs increment a score multiplier. Obviously, I haven't implemented these functionality yet. But with the score multiplier disc, based on how many discs you've collided with previously, each time you collide with a disc, it increments your score multiplier. And if you collide with something that's not a disc, it'll reset your score multiplier to 0. So now we're just going to implement our score manager, I should say, which will increment a score each time you collide with a step, or increment the score each time you collide with the discs. But at the moment, we're just going to do the increment score when we collide with the steps. So I'm just including a few static variables: score text score and score modifier. Those are private, then we're going to add some public getters. I'm just setting those to be 0 because every time we collide with a spike, it's going to reset the level, and unless we then say score equals 0, it's going to be whatever the score was on the previous loop. Yep, so we're just doing our public score accessor, which will see our score equals to our score plus our score modifier, and then that'll apply our score text, that score value to our score text. Now we're going back into resolve avatar collision script, and if we're colliding with a step, i.e. does that game object we're colliding with contain our generate random obstacles script, and only one type of game object will contain that script, this is our step. And if that's true, we'll increment the score. As you can see here, we're colliding with the step, and we're incrementing the score. You can see when we're colliding with the disk, it's not incrementing the score as well. Oh, actually, sometimes it is, yes. That was an issue. Sometimes it would collide with both the disk and the step. So here we're just going to write a function called private bool is disk also there. So it's going to basically say if we're colliding with a space, if we're colliding with the step, but we can also see that there's a disk in between our avatar and the step, then we don't want to increment the score, because it turns out we're not actually colliding with the step, we're actually colliding with a disk. It's just an issue with this Unity collision system. Could be that the disk is way too, disk collider is way too thin. But I think I had a up close look, and the avatar was actually clipping through the disk into the step, if you look closely. So yeah. See what I'm saying? Yeah, if there's nothing in that slot, then it's definitely not a disk there. And then we're saying if that slot contains a disk, we want to say what's that disk position, and does our avatar position fall within our disk position. going to get the dimensions of our disk by getting the through the mesh collider and getting the extents variable. No, box collider, not mesh collider. Yeah, so it's within the extents. That's basically what that if statement means. So that's true, return true, saying there is a disk there. If not, return false. Return false. And we're going to call that function here within our if statement. So if is disk all there, pass in our collision transform, if that equals to false, then we're going to increment our score. Let's hit save and go back to Unity. Okay, so if we collide with a disk now, what's going to happen? Ah, so yeah, it doesn't increment exactly what we wanted. Yep. Yeah, that's working perfectly. Dunk, dunk, dunk. Nope, nope, no. Yeah, so now we need to do the spike collisions to reset the game as well, and the diamond collisions to increment our diamond collectibles. So we're going to do our diamond manager first. It's basically the same as our score manager, so I'm just going to copy that and paste it. Yeah, I'm just going to adjust the variable names. We don't need the modifier. So instead of score, it's going to be diamond score. No score modifier. Instead of score text, it's going to be diamonds text. Instead of score, diamond. I've got diamond score, I believe. Okay. Go back into our score manager. And we're going to add an accessor for our score modifier. It's very basic, return and set. And save that. Oh yeah, we add an undestroy function to make sure it resets our score and our score modifier. So when we reset the scene, and we're going to add the same thing in for our diamond score. Just to make sure. Okay, so go back to resolve avatar collision script. Create a new function. Yeah, to resolve our collisions. So what's going to happen when we collide? And we're passing into the parameters a slot and a game object. The other being the one we're colliding with. And the slot being the slot. Yeah, so we're going to be switching on based on what the obstacle is. Yeah, and if it's going to be a spike, we're going to reset the scene. If it's going to be a disk, we're going to increment the score and increment the score modifier. And we don't need to do a case for it's empty. Yeah, so I'm just resetting the scene here. So I'm going to say load scene, stairs scene. And load scene mode is single, meaning it's not adding, you're not having multiple scenes open at the same time. Every time we collide with a diamond, we're going to destroy the diamond and increment our diamond score. So we destroy it just to make sure we're not incrementing it multiple times. Yeah, so we're saying here, if it's not a step, then we need to call our resolve collision function, pass through our slot and pass through the object we're colliding with, the collision. So we're just getting our slot from the collisioned object. Because at this point we'll be colliding with a obstacle, so we need to get its parent, the slot. And we're doing the same for the on trigger enter. We're going to be calling the resolve collision function because our diamond uses a trigger instead of a collision. So when the avatar intersects with the diamond, it will call the on trigger enter function instead of the on collision enter function. So we just need to say if it's not the position reset trigger, because that's also using a trigger, using a trigger box collider. Guess we're on Unity and run that. Let's try this out. So what happens when we collide with a diamond? Yep, the increments disk. Yep, looks like it's incrementing the score. It's hard to tell. Once we're adding the score counter, easier. Yep, and then we collided with the spike there and it reset the scene. So yeah, our values reset back to 0. We're incrementing our diamond there. Yeah, that's good. Let's stop that. Okay, let's make a few more changes to our score modifier. So we're going to be setting up our score counter so we are able to properly track what our current score incrementation is, because it's changing depending on what we're colliding with. It's useful information for the player. Yeah, so we're adding in our score counter text, so our score counter's position and our score counter's transform parent, because those things are going to be changing as we go. So I'm going to add getters and setters for those three. I should say just first counter position and score counter parent, and then we'll be setting the text within the score counter text within the score getter. So score counter position, return score counter position, and our set. So we're going to create a new counter position. It's going to sit just on top of the step. So we'll get our values x, y, and z, and then we'll add 0.001f to our y value. Yeah, score counter position equal counter pause. Then we need to set the actual text text transform to the counter position, or the score counter position. And we're playing an animation, which is it will fade out the text, fade in and out. So when we collide it, it will reveal the text and then it will slowly fade out. Okay, we're now creating the getter setter for score counter parent. Getting the transform. Getting the parent transform, I should say. And then setting it as well. Let's save that. Now we're going to resolve avatar collision. So we go down to resolve collision, and under disk we're going to set our position and the transform. So the position will be directly under our avatar, so as it bounces up we'll be able to see it. And the parent will be the step. The step or the disk, I suppose. In this instance it'll probably be the disk. Yes, sorry, we're going back to the score manager, and we're going to find our score counter text. So just grabbing the name here. Go back into Unity, grab, copy the name, paste it into there, and getting its text mesh pro component. Okay, so go down to score. And we're going to set the score counter text. Save that. Resolve avatar collision script. And we need to go to generate random obstacles section, and we're going to set our score modifier to 0 because every time we collide with a step, our score modifier will be 0 instead of whatever it was previously. And we need to then set the position to the contact point and the transform to the step that we've collided with. Save that, let's go back to Unity, test that out. Hit play. Okay, there it is. See it. +1, +1, +1, +2, +3, +4, +5, +6, +7. Dunk, dunk, dunk. That looks like it's working properly. Okay, so we've got pretty much all of our main gameplay working now. So it'd be good if we could make this a bit trickier for our players. At the moment it's quite easy. So first we're going to add a boolean that has game started. So it will control the instructions text. It'll get rid of that once you start sliding, and it will also start generating our obstacles once you've started sliding, and it won't increment our score until you've started sliding. So the game won't start until you hit the slider. So we're getting a public bool game start. So once we move our slider, it will trigger the game start function method. I was just including our instructions text there. The game object, so we just set that to set active to false. And we also need to remove our game start list, otherwise we'll just keep calling it. It's kind of a waste. So we're going to remove all of the listers first, then just add it back in again. Add the slider change one back in again, I should say. Okay, so go to on collision, enter inside the resolve avatar collisions script. I'm going to get our slider controller. As the game started, if it has, we don't want to do any of this scripting, any this functionality. Just hit return if it's equal to false. and go back into position reset trigger. I'm going to say only generate obstacles if the game has started. So slider control that has game started is equal to true. Then first I get component generate random obstacles dot generate. Save. Okay, let's go back to Unity. Let's try that out. Yeah, yes, you include our instructions game object. So look in the scene, under I, instructions, TMP, yep. X, let's hit play. Okay, so I don't see anything generating. So once you start sliding, text disappears. Our skull can start working and we start seeing generated objects moving down. That looks to be working. Let's have a little play. Okay, stop that. As I said before, it's a little boring at the moment, a little easy. So we're going to add some extra functionality. So if we look at our steps, on step 2 we've got this, or step 3 even, we've got this move side to side script. So we're going to slide our step from side to side, make it a bit more tricky. We just need to adjust that loop from update to fixed update. And we're going to include some internal variables, speed and range. So speed, how quickly our step will slide from side to side and from what position it will go from. So our speed will either be minus in the X position or plus in the X position. So yeah, 1 or minus 1. And we're going to go from a range from 1.25 to 3.25. We'll also need to adjust our slider by that much, by the range as well. Yeah, we're multiplying our speed by the fixed delta time in order to keep it consistent with the fixed update loop. So it's in between our range when I reverse the speed, so I'll bounce it back and forth from side to side. And we're just updating its position here. Yep, and now we're just updating our slider within the slider controller by the range, which is 3.25. At a maximum it would be 3.25. And now we're just going to rotate our diamond a little bit. This is purely for aesthetic reasons. It's just going to spin him. It's nowhere needed for the game to function. I just thought it looked a bit better. So we get an up vector telling you our speed, which is 0.1f, and saying it's going to do that within the world coordinate system. Okay, let's play that. Okay, so I think that about does it for today. We've got our sliding steps from side to side. So as we start the game, we should see our spinning diamonds in a moment. You can see it making it a bit trickier. Makes it easier for you to miss your intended target. See our diamonds there are spinning a little bit. Yeah, there's more you can do to it. You can increase the speed as you go. But I'm quite happy to leave it there for now. So I'm fairly happy with how this turned out. It was a little bit trickier than I thought it would be, actually. Here we are. See, it's not as so easy as you think. Okay, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. And I'll see you next time. We'll just finish with a little side-by-side comparison, our version and the original.